Hello, Toads and Toadettes. Welcome to the fourth episode of Breakdown, the podcast that focuses on video games centralized around Nintendo series like Mario and Zelda. While those games are the main focus of this podcast, there are many others that can be discussed on this channel, even ones from other developers like Sony or Microsoft. We here at Breakdown have a love for all video games. Today's episode is going to be about a personal favorite of mine of the Zelda series, Skyward Sword. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is an action-adventure game developed and published by Nintendo for the Wii. It is the 16th mainline entry in the Legend of Zelda series. It was released in, I believe, November of 2011, and the reason we're talking about it today is because it was released for the 25th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda, and they're releasing the HD version for the 35th anniversary, which is coming in July. So that's very cool. That's why we're talking about it today. Taking the role of series protagonist Link, players navigate the floating island of Skyloft and the land below it, completing quests that advance the story and solving environmental and dungeon-based puzzles. The original mechanics in combat, the latter focusing on attacking and blocking with sword and shield, are reliant on the Wii Motion Plus peripheral, which many people did not like. However, I got it to work fairly well, and it worked pretty good for me. With the HD remaster coming soon, they are proposing that it's going to be fixed, and I am very, very excited. Fixed meaning that it's going to be smoother than it was in the original. A lot of people had trouble with the original Wii Motion Plus. However, like I said, it wasn't really that bad for me. It still was playable, which is the real point of the game, is to have it playable. Skyward Sword is the first game in the Zelda timeline. If we talk about the Zelda timeline, it is a very complicated timeline. It's very convoluted. However, this details the origins of the Master Sword, the reoccurring weapon within the series, and also, the story of Link and the green tunic, and all that, as well as the goddess Hylia and Zelda and all that. The Legend of Zelda. Link, the resident of a floating town called Skyloft, heads on a quest to rescue his childhood friend Zelda after she is kidnapped and brought to the surface, an abandoned land below the clouds. I'm very much looking forward to the HD remaster for multiple reasons. One, because this is one of my favorite games. It's a long game, and it's got a lot of content in it, which I appreciate. And not only is the content, is there a lot of content, the content's good. There are very good puzzles. The items you get to use are amazing. The flow is amazing. The movement is great, like rolling bombs and you aiming the bow and arrow, or like the beetle, dousing, all that stuff is really, really great. Even just using the sword fighting mechanics, that's just so fun. It's so much fun. Like stated before, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is an action-adventure game in which players take the role of the series protagonist Link through a series of monster-populated overworlds and navigating dungeons featuring puzzles and bosses. Link is controlled using the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, and the Wii Motion Plus peripheral is required to play. The greater majority of gameplay mechanics revolve around the use of motion controls. These include camera control with the Nunchuck and general hotkey actions and movement linked to the Wii Remote. Jumping across gaps and scaling legends happen automatically within context. The Nunchuck is also used to make Link perform a forward roll. Link can sprint for a short distance but sprinting and other actions such as climbing and carrying heavy objects are limited by a stamina meter, which recharges after a few seconds when not performing actions that drain it. So similar to Breath of the Wild. This is where Breath of the Wild really got its idea. I was gonna say I was told, but really I heard. Breath of the Wild was in development when this game came out. So that's kind of where they got that idea from. When depleted entirely, Link's movement speed is reduced and he is left vulnerable until the meter refills. Standard navigation takes place from a third-person perspective, while the dowsing with search function switches to a first-person view. Dowsing scans an area for a selected object, with new dowsing objectives appearing depending on the game context. Now here's what we really care about: fighting enemies. Fighting enemies, which appear both in the overworld and in dungeons, relies on Link's use of the sword and shield. Link's sword movements are mapped to the direction the Wii remote is flicked by the player, and other moves include a forward thrust and a stab. Enemy movements are designed to anticipate and block Link's combat movements. By raising the Wii remote, the sword gathers energy which can be unleashed in a Skyward strike. Skyward strikes are also used to trigger environmental elements such as magical switches. The shield is controlled with a nunchuck. When the shield is raised, it can be used to reflect damages. Spin attacks and finishing blows are also activated by swinging both the Wii remote and the nunchuck. These are going to be switched to be able to be used by the Joy-Cons, obviously. Because there's no Wii remote nunchuck for the Switch. Just like every other game, Link's health is represented with hearts. When Link takes damage, he loses hearts. If he loses all of them, the game ends. Now let's get to what we really, really, really care about: the plot. And spoilers for anyone who hasn't played the game and is looking forward to playing the HD Remastered for the first time. I'm going to be reading this as if you've played the game before. So skip ahead. I'm not sure exactly when. I'll leave a time stamp in the bottom in the description for when I am done with the plot. Skyward Sword takes place at the beginning of the Zelda continuity. According to the legend, 3 ancient goddesses bestowed a great wish-granting power, the Triforce. The Demon King Demise, a deity who had conquered time itself, laid waste to much of the land seeking to take the Triforce. The goddess Hylia gathered the survivors and sent them into the sky, allowing her to launch a full-scale offensive against Demise. She was victorious, but the land was severely damaged. Uncounted years later, the outcrop is known as Skyloft, and its people believe the surface below the clouds is a myth. In the present, knight-in-training Link passes his final exam despite attempted interference by his class rival Groose, who considers himself a romantic rival for Link's childhood friend Zelda. After passing the exam and on a celebratory flight together, Zelda is whisked away below the clouds by a dark tornado. After recovering back on Skyloft, Link is led into the island statue of Hylia to the goddess sword by Fi, the spirit of the sword who resides within it. Link draws the sword, showing himself to be the prophesized hero who will destroy Demise. Opening a way through the clouds to the surface, Link is guided by Fi to the sealed temple, where he meets an old woman who tells him to track Zelda. This leads Link across the regions of Faron Woods, Alden Volcano, and the Lanayru Desert. While he catches up with Zelda, he is prevented from returning her to Skyloft by Impa, a young woman guarding and guiding Zelda. Link also encounters Girahim, a self-proclaimed demon lord working towards freeing Demise. At the Temple of Time in Lanayru Desert, Link defends Zelda and Impa from Girahim, giving the two time to depart through a time gate into the past, which Impa destroys as they pass through. Returning to the sealed ground, the sealed temple, Link is followed by Groose, and the two end up on the surface together. Link then has to defeat the Imprisoned, a monstrous form of Demise, attempting to reach the sealed temple. After the old woman shows him a second dormant time gate. With the Imprisoned defeated, Link sets out to strengthen the Goddess Sword by passing trials set by the ancient goddesses and using their gifts to find sacred flames to purify and strengthen the blade so the time gate can be awakened. Returning to find the Imprisoned attempting to break free, Link reseals it with help from Groose. Activating the time gate and traveling to the past, he finds Zelda and learns that she is the mortal reincarnation of Hylia. Hylia could not kill Demise and was too weakened from the battle to fend him off again. So she created the Goddess Sword and reincarnated as a mortal to find someone who would fulfill her duty by using the Triforce to wish Demise's destruction, as only mortals could use the artifact. Zelda then seals herself inside a crystal to strengthen Demise's seal, granting her power to the Goddess Sword and upgrading it to the Master Sword, which we're all familiar with. Link locates the Triforce on Skyloft and uses it to destroy Demise. With Demise dead and Zelda free, Girahim arrives and kidnaps Zelda. Though Demise is dead in the present, Girahim intends to use Zelda as a sacrifice to resurrect him in the past. Link pursues Girahim into the past and fights through his army. He then defeats Girahim, who turns out to be the spirit of Demise's sword, but is unable to prevent Zelda from being used to reincarnate Demise's humanoid form. Groose guards Zelda's body while Link challenges Demise. Link triumphs and absorbs Demise's essence into the sword, but Demise curses Link's and Zelda's descendants to be haunted by his reincarnated rage. To complete the sword's seal, Link drives it into the pedestal in the sealed temple, with Fi accepting eternal slumber as a result. Groose, Link, and Zelda return to their time while Impa remains behind and destroys the time gate, as she is the person of that time and must watch over the Master Sword. In the present, the old woman greets them one last time before she dies and vanishes, revealing that she was Impa. The game ends with the surface now freely accessible to the residents of Skyloft, while Zelda decides to remain on the surface to watch over the Triforce. She and Link together establish the Kingdom of Hyrule. So, a phenomenal story. Truly phenomenal. One of the things that I really like about this game is that you think Girahim is the big bad guy the whole time. I mean, you hear about this Demise and you're like, what is this horrific thing? But you're so focused on Girahim and what he's doing that you think he's the big bad, when in reality Demise is truly this horrific being that Link at the end of the game, steps up to, and Demise is like, do you wish to challenge me, mortal? You're a paragon of your kind if you think you can take me. And Link, without even slipping up or doing anything, he raises his sword and is ready to fight. It's just so awesome. And the game does something really great where they make you care about the characters. They make you care about Link. They make you care about Zelda. They make you care about Groose. And Fi. They make you care about Fi a lot. It's very impressive. The story. The people over at Nintendo and Eiji Aonuma himself is just, they're amazing. They really know how to make a story. I truly think that this is a game that you should play. If you haven't played the original and you are looking to experience this for the first time, I would highly recommend picking up the HD remaster for the Switch. It was announced February 2021 in a Nintendo Direct stream. And it's going to have high definition graphics and will also play at 60 frames per second, which is awesome. And it's set to release on July 16th. And also, I don't think I mentioned this, but a Joy-Con a pair themed after the Master Sword and Hylian Shield from the game will also release at the same time. Super, super cool. I managed to pick myself up a copy of that, of the Joy-Cons. Super excited about that. I'm a huge Zelda fan, if you haven't been able to tell. I have several tattoos all over my body that just show my love for the series, and plus all the stuff in my memorabilia room. And this whole podcast, I mean, hell, this whole thing was started because of my love for Nintendo. Anyway, what were the people's reception on this game? I'm sure you're wondering. It was very good. A lot of places like Famitsu, Game Informer, Eurogamer, Edge, let's see, IGN, they gave it a perfect score, 10 out of 10. Most places gave it a 9 out of 10, 4 out of 5 stars, or sorry, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Very, very good game. Incredible game. It is not only is it incredible for the gameplay, but like I said, the story. If you can do yourself a favor, it would be to pick up a copy of Hyrule Historia, the hardcover book, and read over all the stuff about Zelda, including the beginning of the timeline with Skyward Sword. That would be doing yourself a favor, because they go through a lot of details in that as well. Oh, you know, one thing I didn't mention at all was the music in this game. Oh my god, it's amazing. One of my favorite things is the Ballad of the Goddess. The main theme for Skyward Sword is a reversed version. Like, if you play it in reverse, it's Zelda's Lullaby, which is just incredible. You know how much brain power that must take to be able to create something like that? Incredible. Just incredible. And some of the music is just so happy and colorful, just like the world that you explore. The scores for environment, the cinematic scenes, and the emotional beats in the story are just incredible. And I cannot wait to experience it again on the Switch. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I don't actually remember when that timestamp was, so hopefully I'll figure it out. If not, people will just have to listen and hopefully not be spoiled. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. If you can do yourself a favor, it would be to pick up this game when it comes out, the HD remastered. But yeah, thank you very much. See you next time.